荣幸运动员的高光时刻。尤其当运动员一跃腾空，与北京冬奥会的会徽定格一瞬，雪飞天与竞技魅力相得益彰，熠熠生辉。还有冰壶比赛中的子弹时将，将运动员细致高超的技术动作全方位的回放。数字媒体是新兴的力量，也是新的赛场。可以跟大家揭秘的是呢，北京冬奥会也实现了奥运史上首次 8K 视频技术直播开幕式和重要的体育赛事转播。也希望在北京冬奥组委和在 OBS 全球媒体伙伴的共同努力下，将奥林匹克精神传递到世界上的每一个角落。下面我继续通报有关情况。首先是赛事情况，昨天12个竞赛场馆分别进行了15个小项的比赛，共产生了9枚金牌。今天8个竞赛场馆将进行12个小项的比赛，预计产生8枚金牌。再来通报一下防疫情况。2月15日0点至23点59分，机场入境申奥人员总数累计31人，其中运动员及随队官员0人，其他利益相关方31人。经海关检测后复检阳性1人，来自其他利益相关方。2月15日0点至23点59分，闭环内核酸检测总次数69786，其中运动员及随队官员5899，其他利益相关方63887，复检阳性1人，来自其他利益相关方。北京冬奥会入境申奥人员和相关工作人员均实行闭环管理，与社会面完全隔开。最后通报一下天气情况，预计今天赛区以晴转多云天气为主，北京赛区最高气温是0度，最低气温零下6度。延庆赛区国家高山滑雪中心山顶白天阵风是8到12米每秒。张家口赛区最高气温零下14度，最低气温零下23度。延庆赛区和张家口赛区气温较低，提醒各位记者朋友们，户外采访注意防寒保暖。本日情况通报完毕，谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Director Zhao. Okay, let's now go to Timur Lume for an update on some of the highlights from broadcasting and digital in general. Timur.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Director Zhao. Good morning to all of you. It's nice to see you again. Back in 2008, the Beijing 2008 Games were named the first digital games as the rights-holding broadcasters for the first time deployed on a mass scale digital coverage for their audiences. Fast forwarding to Tokyo 2020 last year, we dubbed those games the streaming games, as the streaming revolution was really shown through the mass coverage on streaming platforms of those games. I will resist the moniker for the Beijing 2022 Games, but quite clearly I think we all see that streaming 6 months later is even more omnipresent, and the Olympics are an interesting transition stage, as so much of the media world between traditional linear television coverage and the exciting possibilities offered by streaming coverage. I will get into more details on this, but firstly a few words about distribution. Firstly, these games are being distributed globally, so you're able to watch them on multiple platforms in every country in the world. If you add up all the coverage by all of our broadcast partners, there are also more broadcast hours ever for a Winter Games edition, with a record number specifically on digital platforms, harking back to the comment about streaming. And so these games, the Beijing 2022 Games, are available to fans and the audiences on more screens and more platforms than any Winter Games before. This, of course, is on the back of more broadcast hours produced by the OBS for the rights-holding broadcasters, and you had those details last week from my colleague Yanis Exarchos, CEO of OBS. But in short, 6,000 hours, which includes all the ceremonies, all the sports, and of course a lot of other supporting content, is available during these games for the rights-holding broadcasters, an increase of the 5,600 hours available in Pyeongchang 4 years ago. Looking at the ratings and the viewership, I think the general comment is that the Olympic Winter Games, Beijing 2022, are delivering a position of dominance for all the rights-holding broadcasters in their specific markets. The opening ceremony, from a broadcast perspective, was a great success, beyond its artistic merit. We are still going to be looking at the exact numbers and getting information for some weeks to come, but I can today confidently say that the Beijing 2022 opening ceremony has already exceeded the global reach of any of the previous Olympic Winter Games opening ceremonies. My estimate today is that it will be around 500 million people, 500 million. This is far higher than the next highest television audience for an Olympic Winter Games opening ceremony, which was recorded in Sochi 2014, which was 388 million people. As I mentioned, we will be working hard in the coming weeks to establish the exact global reach. But based on the evidence that we've seen from the first week, we feel confident that the number will be equal to or superior to each of the to the average of the previous Winter Games. So we're talking around 2 billion people. Looking more specifically at various of the markets around the world, and of course starting with the home territory, China. Home nation interest for these games has been very, very high, really supporting the mass increase for winter sports in China. So far, almost 600 million people have watched the games on TV in China. And of course, we expect this figure to rise. The opening ceremony that I just mentioned was the most watched television program of the last 10 years, any television program of the last 10 years since the Spring Festival in 2012, and is the highest Olympic Games program, Olympic Games or Olympic Winter Games program since Beijing 2008. The total Chinese audience for these games could rival the total global audience for the last games in Pyeongchang in 2018. We shall see. CCTV has consistently also achieved higher audiences in its daytime and evening parts than any previous Olympic Winter Games. And I would just like to congratulate the China Media Group and its brand CCTV on the comprehensive promotion and coverage of the Games together with its sub-licensees in China. Perhaps one last statistic on China is that if you put together the number of TV hours viewed by the total audience, it is already much higher than the combined total of TV viewership measured in hours for the whole of the Pyeongchang Games and the Sochi Games combined, to give you an idea of the interest. So moving across to the previous Olympic territory of Japan, interest there continues to be very high. In fact, 8 out of 10 Japanese people have watched the games. That's around 104 million TV viewers, as at the midpoint. Australia, not generally known as a winter sports country, but doing very well here, has some rather stunning statistics. Our broadcast partner, Seven, reports that 10 million people, which is around 40% of the population, have watched some aspect of the coverage. And this has allowed Seven to dominate the ratings in the first week. They have been ranked number 1 for the entire week, number 1 on every single day of that week, number 1 in all key demographics, and number 1 in all the capital cities and regional markets of their states. In addition, the Olympic Winter Games has been a standout from a streaming perspective, and Seven has streamed 4 times more minutes than for the whole of Pyeongchang Games. Moving to the West and North America, NBC's Olympic coverage continues to dominate their prime time. And in fact, they achieved an unbroken stretch of 100th consecutive night, stretching back to Vancouver 2010, as of February the 11th, when they headed up, Olympic coverage headed up primetime coverage. The post-Super Bowl Beijing Olympics coverage on Sunday delivered the top NBC Olympics audience since the opening Sunday of the 2018 Pyeongchang Games. And in terms of streaming, with NBC's streaming platform Peacock, over 2 billion minutes have been watched by Olympic fans as of 11th of February, making Beijing 2022 the most digitally viewed Winter Olympics ever in the USA. A similar story in Canada, and over half of all Canadians have watched CBC's Radio-Canada's coverage of Beijing 2022. Switching to Europe, despite there being no prime-time coverage or live coverage, our rights-holding broadcasters have enjoyed a very dominant share of viewing across most of the markets. As a general average, in most countries, between 1/2 and 3/4 of the population have watched some aspect of games coverage. Our rights-holding broadcast partner, Discovery, reported very strong figures for streaming. In fact, after 4 days of competition, their streaming metrics, the amount of streaming consumption, exceeded the total of Pyeongchang 2018. And so they're seeing very strong engagement on Discovery Plus, on the Eurosport digital services, as well as strong overall linear viewership across their markets. And maybe to finish off, just a few words on the IOC digital platforms and social media engagement. So no surprises that Beijing 2022 has been the most digitally engaged Olympic Winter Games to date. As of today, 57 million people have visited the Olympics web and app, which is a record for the Winter Games. And the Olympics has been the #1 sports app across many of the main markets. Beijing 2022 has driven lots of engagement on our social media handles, around 2.5 billion engagements to date, as well as driving a large amount of engagement, as you would expect, on social media outside of the specific Olympic handles too, and of course especially in China. Athletes in particular are continuing to receive a lot of support, with billions of engagements generated across the various platforms. And no surprise, the mascot Bing Duen Duen has also been a top trending topic and has had more than 4.5 billion impressions from just one dedicated hashtag here in China on the Weibo platform. And finally, the engagement on social is also being supported by the 20 partnerships with digital platforms, which is again something new for us. So, for example, our global collaboration with TikTok has ensured our rights-holding broadcasters have their official content featured in a dedicated hub on the platform. And Mark, I think I'll stop there if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Timo. As Timo said, happy to take questions about that, and indeed, as usual, about all topics. So we'll start with the guy over there, I think from Xinhua, and then Kyoto back there. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I will ask in Chinese. 近期呢，我们在机场和闭环内的阳性病例非常少，有些时候都已经基本清零了。我想问国际奥委会和北京冬奥组委对于目前的防疫的情况有何评价？谢谢。
我回答这个您的提问。现在大家每天关注我们每天发布的冬奥的疫情的一些数字，的确最近一段时间都基本上是个位数，而且是越来越少。实际上我觉得是在大的环境下，中国采取严格的防疫措施。当然，我们在冬奥的闭环内的里边，我们并不是说把清零作为我们的一个目标。因为我们也在之前赛前，我们预判到全球疫情流行下，它一定会有输入病例或者境外输入病例，这是我们在预料之中的一种情况。所以呢，现在赛事还在进行，我们目前还得要努力持谨慎乐观的态度。我个人觉得，就是疫情的防疫成功，保证了赛事的成功，得益于我们首先是跟国际奥委会、国际残奥委会共同制定了一本科学实用的这么一本防疫手册。第二个，我就觉得还是得益于我们的科学家、我们的中外的医学防疫专家，每天都在关注全球的疫情形势，每天都在分析出现的每一个病例，而且在对我们的疫情发展趋势我们就是闭环内的疫情发展趋势进行研判，而且对一些措施进行了一些科学的进行调整。第三个，我觉得得益于我们的所有的冬奥参与人员严格的执行了闭环管理的政策，严格的进行了个人防护，而且严格的执行了每天核酸检测的规定。所以我想呢，这都是综合的大家共同努力的结果。当然，我还要对在场的各位媒体朋友和转播商的朋友要感谢他们，他们每天也对我们的防疫措施进行监督，提出问题，而且让我们有持续改进的空间。下一步呢，我想的就是只要我们共同努力，确保一场精彩、安全、顺利的赛事，是我们能够做到的。好，谢谢您的提问。
I think you also just asked for some IOC comment, and obviously I wouldn't add to what the good doctor had said technically. I would just say, I think, as a reminder, because I think we sometimes forget we are actually in the middle of a global pandemic, and we are hosting probably one of the most complex international competitions or events indeed in the world very, very successfully. So we are not complacent. The games aren't over yet. We're now making sure that everyone can leave, those that need to leave can leave the country safely. That's also a huge logistical challenge. But I would take my hat off to our Chinese friends and colleagues for some really, really great work. But it's not over yet. But we're getting there slowly. Yeah, gentleman from Kyoto, and then CBS.
I'm from Kyoto News Japan, and let me use Japanese. IOC のアダムスさんとルメさんにそれぞれ一つずつ質問です。1点目はアダムスさんに少しちょっと技術的な質問で、申し訳ないんですが、フィギュアスケートのワリエワ選手の件です。明日の大丈夫でしょうか。明日の17日の、フィギュアスケート女子のフリーでワリエワ選手が3位に入った場合メダルセレモニーを行わないということでした。ではワリエワ選手が3位に入った場合のその成績なんですけれども、マイインフォシステムで毎日メダルテーブルが積み上げられていると思うんですが、そのワリエワ選手の成績は3位に入った場合 ROC のメダル数としてすぐにカウントされるということでいいんでしょうか。 この点を確認させてください。あともう1点はルメさんにテレビ放送のことでお尋ねします。アメリカの国内のテレビ放送の視聴者数についてこの北京大会はピョンチャン大会の半分程度のテレビ視聴者数だったという報道がありました。これは原因をどういうふうに分析していますか。またテレビからデジタルに視聴者が移行していること、これは今後の IOC の放送権販売の契約だったり将来の IOC の収入に何かどういった影響があるんでしょうか。以上です。ありがとうございます。
Let me just quickly take your first question first before moving to Timo. Yeah, obviously some issues, so there will be an asterisk against the results tomorrow on Friday because they will be preliminary, obviously, pending further investigation. Timo.
Yes, thank you for your question. Media markets change, and they change continually. It's true that we've lived through a period of relative stability and growth, but the reality is that over history, media markets change with new technologies, new ways to consume media. So what we of course don't control that. What we do notice is that the Olympics maintains a position of preeminence and indeed dominance within the available market share. So from our perspective, the foundations of our partnership with NBC remain strong, and of course we have a long-term agreement with them through 2032. And so, we will continue to collaborate with NBC to make sure that the Olympic Games are showcased in the best way possible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, CBS.
Thanks, Mark. Steve Futterman from CBS News. I wanted to ask you a bit about last night. That was quite a moment being there. I don't know if you were there, but it has obviously spawned lots of reaction from many of your Olympic champions. Tara Lipinski saying it's a scar on the Olympics forever. Liz Manley saying it's the Olympics have become who can be best at cheating. Can you talk about what you think last night represented? Do you think it changes things? Does it take away a bit of innocence from the Olympics that can never be regained? And do you feel there was a sad aspect to last night's event where she was being allowed to participate?
Yeah, I would just remind you, as I remind everyone here, that this case has not yet concluded. Kaz made that very clear. In fact, as far as I know, the B sample hasn't even been opened. So I think drawing conclusions like that at this stage is really inappropriate. The competition went ahead. Kaz decided the competition went ahead. Would we prefer not to have all this going on? Absolutely. Would we prefer to be having a normal competition without this distracting from it? I think everyone would agree with that. The athletes particularly, and it's for the athletes that that my heart goes out. But we are where we are. The IOC, as with everyone else, has to follow the rules, and we will be, I think from now on, very strict. I think I won't surprise you to know that I'm not going to be speculating any more on this specific case. I think we had a very long session yesterday. I brought Denny Oswald along to try to give some background detail to the conversation, particularly since he led the Oswald Commission and so on. But I really think that I have reached the end of what I am able to say. Of course, I can answer technical questions about the asterisks and so on, but my personal opinion also is not perhaps that interesting anyway. But I respect all the opinions of all those great skaters, of course.
What would you say to people, though, who are hurt by what happened? That's what I'd like to get from you.
Yeah, I would say that we have an absolute duty to follow the letter of the law. Due process is very important. We all talk about due process when it's someone else. When it occurs to us, it's very important. So think of the personal issue of the person involved. We all need to follow the due process. This person has not even had their B sample opened. The case is not even finished yet. So to make all these grand statements is, I think, a little bit premature.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. We're going to move over here slowly. I think there was a woman just there, and then we'll, yeah. And then we'll, okay. Yeah, well, this gentleman first, then you, and then we'll move over slowly.
谢谢马克，我是中央广播电视总台记者，想提问赵卫东先生。从目前的这个转播效果来看啊， 是否达到了北京冬奥组委的预期？那么在整个比赛当中，有哪些瞬间给您留下了深刻的印象？另外，也请您评价一下，各国运动员在赛场上他们所展现的奥林匹克精神。谢谢。
好，谢谢你的提问。我们很高兴地看到，北京冬奥会已经成为至今收视率最高的一届冬奥会。我不知道这个是不是在你的预期范围之内。至于你说的比赛的精彩的瞬间，最为感动的精彩瞬间，我想呢，这个比赛当中有无数个精彩的瞬间，让人感动。比如，运动员在出发前的专注的表情，还比如，比赛结束后，运动员之间温情的拥抱，这些都会给人留下深刻印象。但是就我个人来说，给我是最为触动的，就是在开幕式上，运动员旗手步入国家体育场的那一瞬间，我深深地感觉到，世界再一次如约的欢聚在五环旗下，在各国人民大团结的面前，一切艰难困苦都是渺小的，一切辛勤汗水都是值得的。我们即将兑现承诺，为世界奉献一场简约、安全、精彩的奥运盛会。谢谢。
Okay, yeah, lady, yes, please, yeah.
Thank you. Maggie Rulli here from ABC News. And I completely understand the desire not to speculate, but I do want to ask just about the future, because Paris organizers have said they do not want a repeat of the Valieva case, but it does seem to keep happening here time and time again. So I'm curious what real concrete plans the IOC has to not only support Paris, but also prevent this culture in the future.
Would remind you that there, as far as I know, is one doping case has taken place here at the Olympic Winter Games so far. This case, which isn't concluded, concerns an issue in December, I believe. As for Paris, yeah, absolutely, we support them entirely. As for testing, and as you know from testing and ruling on doping cases, we have outsourced that on purpose so that it's independent from us. To avoid even the appearance of conflict of interest.
Well, do you think you'll change anything from what you did these games to what you'll do in Paris?
I'm sure everything will be looked at, but as I say, this specific case, it's very difficult to draw any conclusions from a case that hasn't even reached its conclusion yet, and I don't think you should do that, and I certainly won't do that. Thank you very much. Yeah, gentleman here.
谢谢马克先生，我是北京新京报记者。我想问一下，在这次北京冬奥会期间呢，有连续降雪的天气，尤其张家口赛区连续降了2天雪，有比赛还延期。那么在这样的天气条件下，转播团队是怎么样顺利的保证转播的进行，同时经受住了哪些考验？谢谢。
提姆回答一下。
Yeah, actually, this is really a question for my colleague Yanis, but I can tell you that within OBS they have many experienced broadcast professionals who have worked in very many different conditions for winter sports events, and so they will be used to planning for these events and taking all different contingencies into account, even the particularly cold weather.
Question from AFP, I think, there. Yeah.
Bonjour, Emmanuel Pionnier, AFP. Mark, you mentioned an asterisk next to Valieva's name if she reached the top 3. Will you do the same with the team event? Because last time I checked, there is no asterisk next to the team event in the table. And will you organize the award ceremony right after the event tomorrow night?
On the asterisks against the team event, to be honest, I'm not aware. Obviously, not running the website, but I would assume that would be the case. As for the medal ceremony, I think we said in our statement, if I can find it amongst my sheaf of papers here, that we would talk to the NOCs and to the athletes involved and try to work out a suitable and dignified process, either in their country or at an event or in Lausanne. But that cannot happen until after the process is over. Sorry, did I misunderstand?
No, I'm not talking about the medal ceremony. I'm talking about the award ceremony, the one right after the podium ceremony, right after the event.
No, the flower ceremony also will not happen. Yeah, I think we said that in the statement, but the flower ceremony will also not happen. Yes, lady there. Yeah, and then lady at the back.
Thank you, Mark. I'm from CMG. 我这个问题想提给黄春先生。冬奥会已经接近尾声了，那我想问的是，在冬残奥会期间，整个的防疫措施，有没有什么变化？那在转换的这个时期，防疫政策是怎么样执行的？谢谢。
好，我回答您这个问题。实际上，大家也非常关注冬奥会，再过几天就要圆满的闭幕。刚才也讲到了，在冬奥会期间呢，我们所有的按照防疫手册制定的防疫措施呢，都是行之有效的，这是我们有目共睹。当然说，对于行之有效的措施，一定会延续到我们残奥会。在这方面呢，就是我们出台防疫手册，并没有把它分成冬奥会的防疫手册和冬残奥的防疫手册，都是一本共有的、共同的一个防疫手册。但是针对我们残疾运动员的特殊这么一个群体，当然说我们有特殊的一些防疫要求。你比如说，他可能对残疾运动员体温调节有异常的情况，我们提前会有一个材料的审核，我们有一个备案。另外呢，对于他有的可能不能戴口罩的，可能单独要戴防护面屏的这种情况，我们要提前也给他标出来。等等这些特殊的，这都是针对特殊的群体制定相关的一些特殊人群的防疫措施。马上就冬奥会结束，面临一个转换期，进入残奥会。当这有一部分人群呢，根据不同人群他的最后的那个趋向，我们也分门别类的制定了相关的防疫措施。你比如说，我们的外方人员绝大多数他就要结束后他就要离境，我们有离境的防疫措施。我们中方人员大批的保障人员恐怕他不会参加残奥会了，他要移出，我们有移出期的防疫方案。再有呢，还有一部分中外的一些工作人员，包括一些技术人员，他要拆卸相关的一些转播设备，包括拆卸一些相关的器材，要装箱等等一些收尾的工作，我们要实施闭环类的一些工作的一些管理的那个防疫措施闭环工作的防疫措施。当然呢，要继续参加残奥会的，继续在闭环内延续到残奥会期间的一些防疫管理措施。总之呢，我们是按照不同人群他的不同的工作的分工来制定相应的针对性的防控措施。这个计划和方案已经很完备了，相信呢有前边的防疫基础，残奥会一定会防疫同样的能够做得很出色、很成功。好的，谢谢您的提问。
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mark, Nancy Armour from USA Today. You all had announced yesterday that Thomas Bach would be here today, and he does not appear to be. So
I did make an error. I said it was going to be tomorrow. It's the day after tomorrow that he'll be here.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, he will. Don't worry. I know there's a lot of excitement. He will definitely be here, and I will. If you're here, I will make sure you get a question to him. So let's move over to the middle, and then I'll come across here in a second. So we're trying to get through everyone in order. Yeah. So lady there. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then we'll come across here.
Thank you. I'm from Kyoto News. Let me ask in Chinese. 我的问题是想给赵先生。就是呢，我前几天在混合区采访到一位来自香港的运动员的时候，顺便问到的目前他呢对目前的香港的言论自由、新闻自由的情况有什么样的看法？然后呢，在现场组委会的工作人员突然就是介入了采访，然后不让我提所谓的政治问题。一般来说， 当然，运动员本人有完全的权利可以拒绝问题，或者也可以反驳。但是，一般来说，就是我们认为，东道国的组委会方面，不太应该干涉自由的采访活动。那么，我想问一下，组委会对此有何看法呢？介绍一下，谢谢。
好，你的这个问题呢，是关注的是媒体记者的采访自由的问题。这届冬奥会呢，我们是在疫情防控的前提下呢，尽力所能及保障这个各位媒体记者的采访自由。我想呢，你刚才说的这个具体的事情呢，我还不太了解，我需要进一步的去了解。但是我想呢，中华人民共和国宪法当中明确保障了人民的言论自由，但是同时呢，我们北京冬奥组委也依照着主办城市合同和奥林匹克宪章，反对体育政治化，我们会按照我们中国的法律法规，保障各位记者，包括境外媒体记者的采访自由。谢谢。
谢谢您。
Okay, we're going to move across here. Let's, start with the gentleman. Yeah, you three. Yeah. Okay, yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Mark. Zhang Yibing from CGTN. This question is for Mr. Zhao Weidong, so I'll ask in Chinese. 张先生你好。昨天我们刚刚结束了在首钢大跳台的这个报道啊，这个是关于这个大跳台的。我们也注意到现场的工作人员，包括 OBS 的人员在进行一些这个接下来的人转换工作。那么还有1周呢，就要到这个冬残奥了。那么现在目前的这个冬残奥的这个准备情况怎么样？相关的人员，闭环内外的人员的这个衔接怎么样？进行做个介绍，谢谢。
好，感谢你的问题。刚才我们环春先生呢，已经就冬残奥的疫情防控的相关的问题呢，回答了记者的提问。北京冬奥组委在成立之初呢，就确定了2个奥运同步筹办的工作的原则。我们在场馆建设、在赛事组织、赛事服务和宣传文化方面都同步推进着这个冬残奥会的相关的工作，确保2个奥运呢同样精彩。那么在筹办工作当中呢，我们也对相关的工作人员、志愿者和场馆的相关单位的人员呢，进行冬残奥的相关的知识和工作的一些技能的培训。那么为了推进场馆层面呢，同步做好冬残奥会筹办工作呢，我们在所有的冬残奥项目竞赛场馆团队，包括3个冬残奥村等主要的非竞赛场馆团队当中呢，配备了专职的残奥整合的经理、无障碍协调的经理，负责场馆运行工作中残奥筹办工作任务的协调落实，确保以同样的运行水平和服务标准呢，来做好冬残奥的相关的工作。那么现在呢，这个冬奥会呢，已经2月20号呢就要结束了闭幕之后，我们马上就要启动冬残奥会的转换期的工作主要的工作就是包括场馆的设施、竞赛的组织、赛事服务、景观标识、官网矩阵等方面的转换。也可以说呢，我们还有大量的工作要在这个短短的10几天之内要完成要根据冬残奥会赛事运行的需要进行调整和优化，满足冬残奥会的需求。谢谢。
Yeah, gentleman here. And then, actually, we're going to do Reuters after that. Yeah, Reuters TV, I can see. And then, I think it's Tracy after that as well. Yeah.
Bonjour, Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club. Je vais poser ma question en français. Elle est destinée à Monsieur Timo Loumet, puisque vous êtes aussi directeur du marketing. Que pensent les partenaires de cette édition des Jeux Olympiques? Ils n'ont pas pu faire beaucoup d'activations. Est-ce qu'il y a eu des réductions budgétaires pour leur contrat? Merci.
Thank you for your question. So we've had around 10,000 submissions of different activations from the various commercial partners, and this is in line with previous Olympic Winter Games. So in terms of volume, there actually is no reduction. Of course, there have been some restrictions due to the COVID measures, for example, around hospitality. And we've worked very, very closely with the partners to make sure that the programs that they are undertaking, they're able to do, whether it's in the host country or elsewhere.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, lady, and then we'll go to Reuters, and then I think it's Tracy Holmes, I think, yeah.
Thank you. 北京新闻广播记者，我的问题提给赵卫东先生。我们注意到前段时间是有媒体报道，在北京冬奥会期间，羽生结弦的中国粉丝是给他寄了差不多有2万多张明信片。冬奥组委也是表示，会设置特别的环节，把这个明信片是交到他手上。我想问一下，就是具体的情况是什么样的？另外，在本届冬奥会上，羽生结弦也是挑战了4A 这个高难度的动作，但是他失败了。想请问赵先生怎么看待他的表现？谢谢。
你这个问题是一个很有意义的问题，是关于运动员在赛场上的表现是不是能够得到观众认可的问题。我想呢，我们这几天从媒体上，特别是社交媒体上，已经广泛的看到了这一届冬奥会很多优秀运动员都收获了不少的中国粉丝。无论是获得奖牌还是没有获得奖牌，都有很多网民在给他们点赞。运动员在追逐梦想、挑战极限的道路上，难免会遇到困难和挫折。我们致敬所有的挑战自我、为理想前行的人。我们也一直大力倡导相互理解、友谊、团结和公平竞争的奥林匹克精神。谢谢。
Yeah, let's have Reuters TV. Thank you.
Good morning, Ian Axon from Reuters Television. Did the IOC pay a lobbying firm to lobby against the Rodchenkov Act? And now it's been passed, are you broadly supportive of what it tries to do, including sending people to jail who are in the entourage of those who dope?
We don't comment on national laws. I think it's wouldn't be appropriate. And I couldn't really comment on a national law. There are many around the world. Yes, Tracy Holmes.
Tracy Holmes, ABC Australia. My first question is to Mark. Many people tuned in last night to watch the Russian figure skater who's at the centre of this doping thing, and I think anybody who is a parent saw somebody who is being beamed into lounge rooms right around the world, but is possibly the most isolated person at these games. She's having information that is supposed to be private under the World Anti-Doping System leaked against her. Papers have been leaked about what appeared in the Court of Arbitration for Sport hearing. She can't trust the system. She can't trust the media. She possibly can't trust the people around her. In this era of well-being, what has the IOC done to reach out to her to ask how she's going and how she's coping with the situation, because clearly it's very stressful. And my question to Timo is that in your experience in working with broadcasters around the world, how do dramas like this actually play in to ratings? Do they actually give a ratings boost? Thank you.
Yeah, I will talk briefly to the first point, and you put it quite eloquently that she is in the centre of a lot of speculation. It must be very tough for her. I went through, I think yesterday and the day before, what we're doing generally for athletes in terms of safeguarding officers, in terms of chaperones. I think there are 60-odd safeguarding officers. Various information. We, of course, are in touch with the team. Her welfare is the team's first priority, and obviously we are very careful of that, but there's only so much that we can do. But I think you're right. We all need to be very, very responsible in the way that we discuss this issue, which, just to remind you again, has not even been concluded yet. So thank you. Yeah, and there's a question for Timo.
Thanks, Tracy. I think in the case of the Olympic Games, there's a lot of scrutiny and there's a lot of attention and promotion already out there. So I'm not sure that it would make that much difference. But obviously, those people who do, we hope that they'll focus on the sporting endeavours. But we'll obviously the ratings will come out in a few days, and we expect them to be strong as always.
Yeah, okay, let's have gentleman there. Oh, okay, lady and the gentleman just behind. Yeah.
谢谢马克，我这个问题呢是问给外方官员 Timo 的，因为呢在本届冬奥会上，电视媒体的播放和转播率是收视率非常高的，不仅仅是在中国，全球都是这样一个情况。那么这里面有没有很好的经验可以分享？同时，传统媒体和数字媒体的结合有哪些技术进行了突破呢？谢谢。
Yes, I think in every edition of the games there is new technology which comes to bear. Sometimes, as we've seen, this is at the consumer end. So consumers have many different ways to enjoy the games, and that's one of the features of the Beijing Games. Whether it's a small screen or a very large 8K screen, the type that you can see in the lobby of the International Broadcast Centre. Similarly, the coverage of the games continues to change, and you will have seen there are many different slow motion replays of the true view, the 360 degree of the athletes in their performances, and many other enhancements to the overall broadcast package presented by OBS. And this is an area that the IOC will always invest in terms of technology and, of course, the best human talent to bring that to the fans.
Thanks to gentleman here, and then
Anthony Germain of the Canadian Broadcasting question. I have a COVID-19 question for Huang Xianxiang. The situation in Hong Kong is getting very serious with more than 6,000 cases per day, 10,000 people waiting to be admitted to hospital. Given that the games are still ongoing, has China taken any enhanced measures with respect to containing the situation in Hong Kong from mainland China?
关于香港的疫情呢，我们每天也都在密切的关注。当然，我们现在首先更重要的关注我们冬奥赛事的这个闭环内的疫情防控情况。至于香港的疫情防控，我想呢，我们中国政府，包括我们各地的我们北京市、河北省，他们都在关注香港的疫情。相关的防疫措施呢，就跟以前我们采取的防疫措施是一样的，就是一些遵循我们城市层面的相关的疫情防控政策。我想呢，目前来说，我想就香港的疫情，目前对我们冬奥会的疫情防控没有什么太大影响。好，谢谢您提问。
I think I saw inside the games wanted a question at the back there, and then over here.
Good morning. This is a couple of questions for Timo. First off, can I confirm you're talking about NBC's ratings, which a lot of newspapers have been reporting as disappointing. Are we talking linear broadcast after the Super Bowl for those figures that you meant that they kept the ratings high after the Super Bowl, sort of following on from that? And the other one I wondered was, what impact has the time of day had on European audiences? It's a key audience for winter sports with Scandinavia, the Netherlands, Germany and so forth. Has the impact of it being at the wrong time of day, during the day when people are out working, had any kind of impact in your eyes? Thank you.
Okay, and for the first question, yes, the particular instance I quoted was the post-Super Bowl audience figure in the case of NBC. For Europe, we're in the third games now, in Asia Games, and I think the audiences are getting quite used to watching their Olympic sport at different times. So actually, as I was saying, the audiences on linear TV have been strong. So you can imagine in certain Nordic markets, which are winter markets, they've been extremely strong. But in general, they've held up very well despite the time differences and the lack of a live prime time coverage.
Yeah, I think Graham. Yeah, let's move over here. Then Graham wanted a question. Dunbar from AP, and then gentleman there, lady there. Yeah.
Hi, Graham Dunbar from AP. A question for Timo about your single most important commercial deal, the American TV rights. They expire in 2032, so the first one available 2034. I think most people in this room think they're probably going to go to Salt Lake City, and quite soon. What's your strategic thinking about how soon to open up those rights discussions, either to renew with a long-term partner or use the lure of having an American host to try to open up a competitive bidding, weighing against, given how fast changing the media landscape is and the fact there's going to be a different IOC president in 2025, we think, that this is maybe a strategic decision that should be left for a few years?
Thank you, Graham. In some ways, you've answered your own question. You know, we're at the end of the day, what will drive a decision for us are the best market conditions, and so there's no hurry. Of course, there's no decision, and in any case, you know, our sales cycle is not necessarily driven by the appointment of a host city. There are plenty of instances where rights to games have been accorded without the host city being aware. So we will continue to look at the market conditions, and then at the right time we'll go to market. In between, we have plenty of activity, some of which you'll get to know over the coming weeks to show that we're keeping busy in other markets around the world.
Yeah, there was a gentleman here, and then a lady there. Yeah, gentleman here. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Gary Kanch with the Wall Street Journal. So Kamila Valieva last night didn't appear at the official press conference, and the moderator there said that she only has to appear at the press conference after a medals event. Now, that would normally be Thursday, but now we know Thursday won't have any medals. So does she have to appear at the press conference or not? Thank you.
I think, to be honest, that we say that we should make every effort and they should make every effort, and we would like them to, but and particularly in this case, I'm not sure that we would or would be able to, but should even force her to appear at a press conference. So I think it's probably very unlikely. Yeah, lady there.
Thanks, Mark. I'm with Reuters. My question goes to either Mr. Zhao or Huang, so I'll ask in Chinese. 所以现在已经有一些这个商务人员已经陆续离境了，所以想请问一下，就是说，我们是否有规定的这个时间表？就是比如说，在闭幕式后多少天，所有的商务人员必须要限时离境？另外想请问一些数据，比如说，您这边掌握的情况是目前已经有多少人离开了？然后您预计这个离境的高峰期会出现在哪几天？大概每天会有多少人？另外，对于闭环内的中方商务人员，就是不需要离境的，是否也有这个限期要出闭环的相关规定？谢谢。
这个问题，请环春先生先回答一下。
谢谢您的提问。按照防疫手册的要求啊，比如工作结束或者比赛结束后，要求是48小时离境。当然，参加闭幕式的人员，是例外的。要参加闭幕式，在闭幕式之后，48小时离境。我们当时离境呢，我们要给他出示相关的核酸检测证明，按照目的地国的相关要求。出境呢，我们的闭环的车辆，就是运送到我们的那个机场的闭环区域办理相关手续离境，这是整个一个过程。当然，离境高峰呢，我们从抵离方面得到的消息，应该是在21号，应该是一个很高峰的日期大概有将近6000人要大规模的去离境。这方面呢，我们的机场的前边的指挥部，包括我们的抵离， 我们相关各个部门交通啊都做好了相应的一些安排。具体现在多少运动员离境了？现在我手里面没有一个确切的数字，不知道我们赵先生有没有这方面的数字，我就能提供这么多消息。好，谢谢您。
具体的这个数字呢，我也没有。我想呢，可能还会有一些媒体记者们，参与冬残奥会的报道。我在这里和大家说明一下呢，我和我的团队。也一直会在闭环内陪伴大家到冬残奥会报道结束。谢谢。
Yeah, Wakakuyuki from Yomiuri Shimbun, and then I think there's a lady right over there I can see, I think. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mark. Wakakuyuki from Yomiuri Shimbun. One question each to Mark and Timo. Thank you. To Mark, regarding this doping procedure, I still believe that Lusada should issue detailed, reasoning for initially lifting up her actually provisional sanction. And my question is, has the IOC received it yet, expecting it at all after what happened, deliberation with the CAS? For Timo, you did say last year and end that this COVID-19 did not really impact sponsorships confidence toward Olympic Games because of the value that it has. But could you elaborate a little bit there? Of course, a lot of activities has to be either way diminished or cancelled. And in a sense, what is the impact? Positively, perhaps, if there's any in your view, and negatively. Thank you.
Just on my bit, I honestly don't know, and I'm not going to give a running commentary on what documents we do and don't receive, but I actually honestly can't tell you at this time.
Hi, Mark. Chris Reyes with CBC News. Thank you for taking my...
Sorry, I'm doing what I did yesterday. I'm ignoring the second part of the question. Do apologise. Timo, please. Sorry.
Sorry, just to cover a question. So your question was about sponsor confidence. And again, I mean, there are always factors that affect sponsors' business or internally or externally. But remember, there's been a run-up in China. China is an important market for many of our, particularly the top partners, but also the local partners, and they've been able to activate ever since they became partners. In some cases, ever since Beijing was appointed as the host city for 2022 back in 2015. With our top partners, we also take into account that they are here with us for the long term, some signed through 2032, some through 28. So a lot of them are already heavily into the planning for Paris 2024 and beginning to look at Milano Cortina 26 and LA 28. So there is always a longer term perspective, as well as an international perspective on particular games, not just always just on the host territory. Just one word on the local partners. There have been very, very strong supporting sentiment in China, I think at all times for these games, even if practicalities have been hampered through the pandemic measures. But there's been always strong support from the local partners for these games.
Thank you, Timo, and apologies for that. Yeah, we're just going over the hour mark now, so let's make this the last question. Yes, please.
Thank you. Chris Reyes with CBC News. Mark, I know you've addressed some of the broader concerns around the Valieva case, but there's actually one athlete making a very specific charge. Sha'Carri Richardson, the American track star, is making a direct comparison between what happened to her and how Valieva's case is being handled. Richardson was barred from the Tokyo Olympics last summer because of a positive test for cannabis. She was also a gold medal favorite. Valieva has been able to compete with an unresolved doping case. Richardson is calling this a double standard. She's been very vocal on Twitter demanding answers, and I'm wondering whether the IOC will give her an answer, and what is the IOC's response to her charge?
Yeah, I mean, simply to say, I mean, obviously every single case is very different, and this one hasn't even reached the end of its case yet, but In terms of Ms. Richardson's case, I mean, she tested positive on the 19th of June, quite a way ahead of the Games. The results came in early order for USADA to deal with the case on time before the Games. Ms. Richardson accepted a 1-month period of ineligibility, which began on June the 28th. So I would suggest that there isn't a great deal of similarity between the two cases, but that would, I think, clear that one up. Thank you very much, everybody. It is 12:05, and I will be back here again tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.